Hari Om, everybody. Welcome back to the concluding session of our Adhyatma Prakasha series. Let's get started. Om Ganana Antva Ganapatigum Havamahe Kaving Kavinamupamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashunvannuti Dasadanam Prano Devi Saraswati Vajebhirvajinivati Dhinamavidyavat Om Ganeshaya Namaha Om Saraswatyai Namaha Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahavidyam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanno Mitrasham Varunah Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Bruhaspatihi Shanno Vishnurukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam vadishyami tanmamavatu tadbhaktaramavatu avatu mam avatu bhaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Bhadram Karne Vishnuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashye Makshabhiryajatraha Sirairangai Estustuvagum Sastanubihi Vyashema Devahitai Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vruddhashavaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti na Starksho Arishtanemihi Swasti no Brahaspatir Dadatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shuklam Varadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Vagishadya Sumanasah Sarvartanam Upakrame Yamnatva Kritakrityasyuhu Tam Namami Gajananam Vakratunda Mahakaya Koti Surya Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupine Vidyarambam Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Vyasam Vasishtanaptaram Shakti Pautram Akalmasham Parasharatmajam Vande Shukatatam Taponidhim Vyasaya Vishnurupaya Vyasarupaya Vishnave Namo Vai Brahmanidaye Vasistaya Namo Namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatetam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyadi Lakshyam Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Triguణarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami Sadgurum Tam Namami Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Yasya Sannidhi Matrena Sarve Shishyascha Sevakaha Karmakshetre Pravartante Chinmayam Tam Namamyaham Chinmayam Tam Namamyaham Chinmayam Tam Namamyaham. Welcome back, everybody. We have come a long way in this 15 module series. I just want to take a few moments to quickly recap our journey. We started with Shreya Preya Viveka, several aspects of our culture, our Adhyatma Samskriti, our Bhautika Samskriti, in general about pursuit of our happiness. We learnt about our Shruti, Smriti, Itihasa, Purana, and Vedas as the basis of our culture. There are three subdivisions to Vedas: Karma Kanda, Upasana Kanda, Gnana Kanda. The purpose is for Chitta Shuddhi and Chitta Ekagrata, leading to the knowledge of the self. Then we learnt a little bit about Karma Siddhanta, which is the basis of reincarnation, how to divinize our action, that is turning karma to karma yoga. Then we learnt about how to divinize our emotions through bhakti, to gain chitta ekagrata, to make mind single pointed. We learnt a lot about Gnana Kanda, the knowledge portion of the Vedas. It's called Upanishads. It is also called as Vedanta. That has been the focus of our study. We learnt about Prasthana Trayi, the Shruti Prasthana, the Smriti Prasthana, and the Nyaya Prasthana. We learned through the story of the four sample Mahavakyas, leading to the ultimate reality, Brahman. We learnt a little bit about Dharma Shastra, Manusmriti, Chaturvida Dharma Lakshana, 10 eternal values of our Sanatana Dharma, Varnashrama Dharma. We covered the topic of Gunatraya Viveka, Tamoguna, Rajoguna, Sattva-guna, and how it veils our divinity. We talked about Varnashrama Dharma, understood that the broad classification of Brahmana, Vaishya, Kshatriya, Shudra is based on Guna and Karma, not Janma Karma Vibhagashaha. Then we learned about 5 koshas, the Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, or the vital air sheath, Manomaya Kosha, or the mental sheath, Vijnanamaya Kosha, or the intellectual sheath, Anandamaya Kosha, or the bliss sheath. Then I gave you 2 logic, the Atma Anatma Viveka and Drug Drushya Viveka, how to transcend these sheaths. Madiyatvena Gnatam, Atma na bhavati, the Neti Neti approach, the negation of what I am not, arriving at what further cannot be negated. We have covered this Pancha Kosha Viveka, Gunatraya Viveka. We learned how to separate the self from transcending the 3 bodies. Avastatraya Viveka, Shariratraya Viveka. Now we know triple A is our problem. Advitiya Atma Agnanam. It's due to adhyasa, superimposition, which leads to avidya, that leads to ahankara. I and mind, that kartrutva and bhoktrutva, can be separated through atma anatma vivechanam. The pointers of swarupa lakshana, tatastha lakshana, atadvyavrutti lakshana, all these we learned how to peel the onion through atma anatma vivechanam. Because I am the nature of Satchidananda Swarupa is what Shastra is telling me. But I don't feel that way. I feel limited. I feel parichinnatva because of Desha Paricheda, Kala Paricheda, Vastu Paricheda. But Atma is that which is devoid of Swagata, Sajatiya, Vijatiya, Swagata, Vedarahita. Then we reviewed the classic example of the snake and the rope and the snake, or the ghost and the post, to review the concept of Maya, which appears to be Ya Masa Iti Maya, Trigunatmika Maya. It has two powers, Avarana Shakti, Vikshepa Shakti. That which projects the unreal, first it covers the truth or what is real, and then projects what is unreal. Aghatita Gatana Samarthyam. Then we learnt about the fourfold qualifications. Viveka, Vairagya, Shama, Adi, Shakka, Sampatti, Mumukshutvam. The 4 Ds of Vedanta. Once the individual is endowed with these qualifications, the fourfold qualification, he approaches a guru. It's called as Guru Upasatti or Guru Upasadana, the one who removes our ignorance. Shastra talks about 2 qualifications for the Guru, Shrotriya, Brahmanishta Guru. And faith in Guru and Shastra, Guru Vakya, is very important for a sadhaka. And the person, while liberated, is known as Jivan Mukta. Remember, our goal has been Atyantika Dukkha Nivritti Paramananda Prapti. Then we went through some techniques for Manashodhanam, negate the negative thoughts, and we need to substitute positivity to remove all the negativity. How do we do that? We need to introspect daily. We need to detect diligently, negate ruthlessly, and substitute wisely. Then we talked a lot about yagna, dana, tapa, vrata, all these techniques, japa. First, we have to find that mind, that manashodhanam has to happen. Then mano nigraha, bind the mind, concentrate the mind, chitta ekagrata, expand the mind with broader ideas and goals. Negate that mind can be negated, chitta nirodha. Then we talked about puja, japa, chintanam. I gave you the example of the tricycle, the bicycle, and the unicycle. How you worship the Lord on the form, name, and its essential nature. That's like riding a tricycle. Japa is with the mind. Like riding, you still need to balance the mind, riding a bicycle. And then Chintanam is supported only by mind, like riding a unicycle. And then in the last class, we looked at Ramayana and Mahabharata as the Itihasa. We learned a little bit about our Puranas. How Mahabharata is called as the Panchama Veda. We learned about that from an Adhyatma standpoint, where Ramarajya is the kingdom of happiness within us. And even in the theme of Mahabharata, I explained the allegory of Ratha Kalpana, that is from Kathopanishad, how it is an inner war within ourselves. Then we touched on the Mangala Charana prior to the study of Prakarana Grantha. All this preparatory work was to study a Prakarana Grantha. And I talked to you a little bit about in the last class on Mangala Charana, invocation. And then we talked about the Anubandha Chatushtaya, the four preliminary consideration. Adhikari, who is a qualified student to study this text, Vishaya, Sambandha, Prayojana, all that. So today we will take one shloka from a Prakarana Grantha called Viveka Chudamani, a crown jewel of Vedantic study, written by Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji. I will take one of these shlokas which is very relevant to our journey. I'll start with the Mangala Charana. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. This is the invocation shloka where Adi Shankaracharya ji in one stroke praises his Ishtadevata Govinda and also Govinda Bhagavat Padacharya, his guru, and prostrates to them. And in the second shloka, which is the topic of our study today, he starts with Jantunam Narajanma Durlabhamatah Pumstvam Tato Viprata Tasmat Vaidika Dharma Marga Parata Vidvatvam Asmat Param Atmanatma Vivechanam Svanubhavaha Brahmatmana Samstitihi Muktirno Shata Janma Koti Sukrutaihi Punyair Vina Labhyate. There is also a Pata Veda in that. Shatakoti Janmasu Krutaihi is also, you will find in some this thing. So, in this one stroke, Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji explains 9 blessings, rare blessings that we have. We will study each one in detail to discover the roadmap to God realization. While Charles Darwin's theory of evolution stops at man, Adi Shankaracharya ji outlines 9 milestones, B1 through B9, blessing 1 through blessing 9, in this evolutionary superhighway. The first one, Nara Janma Durlabhamataha, human birth. Adi Shankaracharya ji says is very rare. Jantunam Nara Janma Durlabhamataha. There are so many Jantus, species, from a unicellular amoeba, algae, plants, fishes, insects, so on. Human birth is considered very rare because man possesses not great physical ability. Because if you notice that blue whale holds the world record for size, cheetah holds a record for speed, dogs can hear a wider range, snakes can see a range of colors. But what Vedanta is pointing out, that human beings alone are endowed with this faculty of self-awareness, which is the ability to be objectively being aware of one's actions, one's words, thoughts, and habits in our intellectual evolution. All other species or living beings in this creation are programmed to lead a life guided by their instinct. They do not have the ability to choose their response or reprogram their lives. Human beings alone are blessed with this rare capacity called free will, purushartha. Above all, human beings are capable of these noble and divine pursuits. Humans alone can ask questions like, who am I? What is the purpose of my life? Although in the Vedas and Puranas, there are mention of celestial beings like Kinnaras, Gandharvas, Yakshas, Devas. All these births are considered mainly for the sake of enjoyment, bhogakshayartham. Because of the accumulated punya, the merits of our past actions, we may enjoy the upper world and heavens and so on, but once the merit card is exhausted, we have to come back. Kshine punye martya lokam vishanti. So these celestial births are also not considered superior to human birth, because embodiment is meant for enjoyment, not for progressing in spiritual life. Only in human birth, Nara Janma, there is a chance to put an end to the cycle of birth and death called samsara. It is only in human birth that one gets the right mixture of joy and sorrow to develop that dispassion called vairagya for ending these finite pleasures that can catapult one to liberation. From Manava to Madhava. So the second blessing, Pumstvam, manhood. See, manhood doesn't, many manly qualities of the head and the heart. Woman symbolically represents the quality of softness, sentiment, attachment, and emotions, and so on, the motherly qualities. A lot of these soft qualities can be found in people with manly body also. Therefore, Pumstvam is referencing here to manly qualities such as firmness, determination, detachment, intellectual hardiness, all these type of manhood. Our Puja Gurudev describes these in his timeless classic called Kindle Life. A rare few develop that universal love, he says, constantly age themselves under the guidance of that Sukshma Buddhi, superior subtle intellect called man, he calls them. They alone can claim that dignity and glory of man, he says. Because there is a lot of misinterpretation that women are prohibited from Vedantic study, etc. This is an erroneous statement. Our scriptures have always given equal recognition to Purusha and Prakriti, Shiva, Shakti, the female aspect of the deity. There have been numerous illustrations in Vedanta where great masters like Kapila Muni, he taught Kapila Gita to Devabhuti. Sage Yagnavalkya, who taught to his wife Maitreyi. So Vedanta is for this subtle intellect. Therefore, study of Vedantic scriptures can be taken up by anybody who has fine-tuned their mind, developed a Sukshma Buddhi, subtle intellect. This study, which can transcend the body, mind, and intellect, is in the realm of beyond BMI. So denying woman is an erroneous argument. The third blessing that Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji calls in the sequence is Viprata, Vipra, Brahminhood. This does not mean self-realization is guaranteed only for Brahmins and their dynasty. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, which I had pointed out in the earlier module, human beings are classified not on the basis of janma, but on gunas and karma. So the literal meaning of Vipra, Brahminhood, should not be misunderstood to be a blessing for a particular caste in the society. At this stage, the Vedantic seeker in his evolution has replaced tamasic and rajasic to predominantly exhibiting sattvic qualities of serenity, self-restraint, austerity, purity, forgiveness, uprightness, knowledge, and more importantly, Shraddha, faith in God. This evolution of man describes that evolutionary maturity of that person who has controlled the emotional instinct. This Viprata transforms the seeker to a disciplined seeker in pursuit of that perfection. So the sattvic qualities described in this phase will help from manhood to mature manhood by the dissolution of ego, by the development of serene qualities, both of the heart and the sattvic qualities of the intellect in that spiritual evolution. Then comes the next blessing, number 4, Vaidika Dharma Marga Parata. Steadfastness on the path of righteousness as presented in the Vedas, as interpreted in the Vedas, dharma with immense belief and faith. While the Vipra evolves into dharma nishta. How does he evolve? With selfless actions, ritual, practice of devotion, japa, puja. The spiritual evolution becomes more profitable with number 5. That is the correct knowledge of the Vedas or the deep significance of the Vedas. Vidvatvam. Vidvatvam, what does it do? It provides the whys and wherefore of the techniques. Vaidika Dharma Marga Parata provides Chitta Shuddhi, purity of mind, Chitta Ekagrata, single pointedness. Vidvatvam takes it further in that ladder of spiritual evolution. Keeping up his or her sadhana with enthusiasm, by nurturing the sukshma buddhi, by nurturing the subtle intellect with inner symbolic meaning, with the right understanding of the Vedas. While the Vaidika Dharma Marga Parata, the 4th phase, are blessed on pure faith and belief, with Vidvatvam, what it does, it is fortified with understanding. This spiritual seeker understands the logic and purpose of these spiritual disciplines. So, armed with these sattvic qualities, steadfast determination, now he is a sadhana chatushtaya sampanna. Remember our 4 Ds of Vedanta. This is the process where he starts to develop Atma Anatma Vivechanam. The right understanding of the Vedas, Vidvatvam, gives the seeker the ability to differentiate between pure consciousness and the inert matter constituents like our body, mind, intellect, all this. At this stage, the seeker is able to intellectually differentiate the self and the not self, Atma and Anatma. He is able to see through the unreal and apparent, what is apparent reality. Seeker has advanced and evolved into a more advanced stage in its spiritual evolution. By this process of Atma Anatma Vivechanam, the differentiation between self and the not self is still an intellectual knowledge, has not crossed the realm of the BMI, body, mind, and intellect. But the next phase, Swa Anubhava, direct experience, is higher than mere knowing. By the steady process of meditation, seeker transcends this body, mind, and intellect, experiences this pure consciousness within. That is aparoksha anubhuti. After getting this glimpse of self within, the seeker wants to be in that blissful state. Sat Chit Ananda. He evolves, wants to establish firmly, continuously, called Brahma Atma Samstiti. He is continuously aware of the true nature, abides in the self, he is able to see the manifestation of the self everywhere. Mamatma Sarva Bhutatma. The seeker has transcended from the state of knowing to state of being. At this stage, the seeker has reached the state of perfection, from bandha to buddha. He is a man of God realization. Such a spiritual evolution has been glorified by our Upanishads as a Jivan Mukta Purusha, liberated while living. Bhagavad Gita calls him Sthita Prajna, Gunatita, the one who has transcended the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. For the one who has reached this Paramahamsa Padavi, the sainthood, there is no coming back. This person has reached this pinnacle from Manava to Madhava. He drops his body after exhausting all his prarabdha karma. That is Videha Mukti. That is the final liberation from the body and end the cycle of life and death for this Mahapurusha. Thus, in one shloka, Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji has enumerated the stages of self-development. He has gone beyond the chapters of the Darwin's theory of evolution. This self-knowledge that can free us from this bondage and liberate us from this ocean of samsara. I'll give you one more sample shloka from Viveka Chudamani, which I call as the M&Ms of Vedanta. Easy to remember. Durlabham trayame vaitat deva nugraha hetukam manushyatvam mumukshutvam mahapurusha samshrayah. Very rare indeed where you have manushyatva, mumukshutva, the burning desire for liberation, and mahapurusha samshraya. You get a great teacher in your life who can teach Vedanta and satsanga of great people. So this M&M, he further expands on it. When we study Vedanta in detail, when we study the Prakarana Grantha at some point, I will take you through that. Before we go into just wanted to give you a sample of how we study a Prakarana Grantha, so that when we go through the Vedanta scripture, each shloka we can study through the Anvayartha, detailed meaning, interpretation, commentaries, bhashya, all that can be studied. Before we go to the topic of symbolism today, I think since today being the last module of this Adhyatma Prakasha series, I wanted to take time to personally thank the temple board of trustees, my good friend Venkatji, all the others who have worked tirelessly in the background, Srinivasji, Prasadji, Narenji, all the others, Ritaji, Sahitiji, so many of the trustees who've shown their love and affection to what we are doing. I also would like to thank my entire Guru Parampara, my Puja Guruji Swami Tejomayanji, our global head of the Chinmaya Mission Swami Swarupanandaji, so many of them who have showered their blessing on us continuously. I'm grateful to all the volunteers for helping complete this Gnana Yajna week after week, considering that we are in an unprecedented time of the coronavirus. I still have the symbolism topic to cover, but I want to hand it off to Venkatji, who has a few.
Namaskaram. As Venkatesh said, today marks the conclusion of the 15-week-long lecture series on Vedanta Simplified. On behalf of Shri Venkateswara Temple, Novi, I would like to thank Shri Venkatesh Hollabbi from the bottom of my heart for committing himself for such a long period without missing or without even delaying by a few minutes a single class. It takes a lot of commitment. I'm sure everybody understands that. I'd like to thank him for sharing his immense knowledge with all of us. I'm sure every one of us have benefited from his lectures. I also want to thank Sri Srinivas Shastri for his help in running the sessions without any hiccups for all the 15 weeks. And finally, thank you all for tuning in to the lectures every week and for your continued support to the temple. Thanks again, Venkateshji, for your service to the community, and hoping to hear from you in future as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Venkatji. And Srinivasji, as Venkatji mentioned, has been behind the scenes in helping and making it successful. Very dedicated service that he has been providing to the temple with his yoga and other classes week after week. And thank you, Srinivas. So I will continue where we left off with the last topic, which is very relevant for today, which is the symbolism of dashavatara. We are in the SV temple, so dashavatara stotram, and how we can interpret in that symbolically. I would like to cover the 10 stories of dashavatara as a symbolic representation of the spiritual evolution of the Vedantic seeker. These symbolic stories show the stages of spiritual journey to perfection. So we start from the left, go all the way to Buddha, from Matsya Avatara. First comes Matsya. Namasmaranam danyopayam nahi pashyamo bhavatarane Rama Hare Krishna Hare Tava Nama Vadami Sadandra Hare Vedodhara Vichara Mate Somakadanav Samharana Meenakara Sharira Namo Hari Bhaktante Paripalayamam. So he comes in the form of a fish avatara. This is the story where the fish is in the cup. The water grows until it becomes so huge, helps all the sages and others to survive the floods, to keep the spiritual knowledge alive. Symbolically, the fish is drowning in the ocean of samsara, in the cycle of birth and death. It is surrounded by the dark waters of ignorance or tamas. Through its fish eyes lens, it sees some light through the water, and light represents the grace of the Lord. And this light shows the sadhaka, the spiritual seeker, that there is more to this world than this ocean of samsara. Thus, the spiritual quest of the sadhaka begins. Then comes the Kurma Avatara. Manthana Dharana Heto Deva Sura Paripalana Bho Kurmakara Sharira Namo Hari Bhaktante Paripalayamam Hari Bhaktante Paripalayamam. This Kurma is the tortoise avatar. You all know the story of the Samudra Mathana, the churning of the Milky Ocean. This phase represents the self-effort of the seeker to understand one's weakness and to get rid of them. Once you start churning through self-analysis, through introspection, through vichara, what happens? All our negative tendencies start to come from within. Remember, even in the Samudra Mathana, the Halahala Visha that came out, and Shiva, Lord Shiva, who drank that poison, turned that into his own ornamentation, called, he became Nilakantha. So all the negative tendencies, replacing it with positivity. Remember the lesson on introspection, detection, substitution. All these are happening at that phase in the spiritual seeker's journey. Then comes the Varaha Avatar, the boar. This is the story where Mother Earth is thrown into the ocean and Lord Vishnu, in the form of a boar. See, remember, all these are lessons that Bhagavan can come in any form. He picks up whatever is functionally useful, he comes in that form and rescues Bhudevi. Bhujo Rakahara Punyada Murte Krudo Dhruta Bhutesha Hare Krudhakara Sharira Namo Hari Bhaktante Paripalayamam Hari Bhaktante Paripalayamam. Now, this Kurmavatara, the seeker has gotten rid of the superficial negative tendencies. Chitta Shuddhi is beginning to happen. But there are a lot of negative qualities deep within. It takes a deeper effort to remove all these negative tendencies. Mala, even in the decantation process, when you scrub the floor, the impurity starts to bubble up. So you have to dive within, go deeper to get rid of tendencies of jealousy, anger, greed, etc. That takes a lot of self-analysis, critical thinking, because we have to scrub the floor. Then comes the Narasimha Avatara. Hemakashiputanu heto Prahlada surapalana bho Narasimhachuta rupa namo Haribhaktante paripalayamam Haribhaktante paripalayamam. In Narasimha Avatara, he is half man, half lion. It is the story of Prahlada. Hiranyakashipu, his father, he did not believe in Lord Vishnu. He had become very powerful. Lord Vishnu comes down in the form of half man, half lion to annihilate him. From a spiritual standpoint, even the deep-rooted evil tendencies of the seeker on his or her way to perfection, he or she is exhibiting many divine qualities of compassion, love, etc. But the seeker is predominantly Rajasic. That lion head represents that pride. And half man is still in the realm of samsara. Then comes the story of Vamana Avatar, the dwarf. The story of King Bali, Bali Chakravarti. Lord Vishnu comes in the form of a Vatu, Vamana. Balimada Bhanjana Vitatamate Padadvaya Kruta Loka Krute Patubatu Veshamanognana Namo Haribhaktante Paripalayamam Haribhaktante Paripalayamam. So this Vatu comes and asks for 3 paces of land. Without listening to his guru, Bali Chakravarti agrees. He takes 1 step, to cover the upper world and one step to cover all of the other worlds. And he says, where can I keep the third step? And Bali Chakravarti offers his head and he sends him all the way down. That here, this phase of the seeker, he loses his ego. He has realized ego is not my amigo. I have to let it go. That dwarfness stands for that humility, that surrender to the Lord. Humility and surrender, they are the two most important qualities for a sincere seeker. This is the last stage before perfection. The seeker has predominantly cultivated sattvic qualities, but has to overcome small obstacles, some rajasic tendencies. This includes the mastery of scriptures, excitement of the followers that a great person would attract. This is where the Parashurama Avatara comes. That Parashu, Kshitipati Vamsha Sambhava Murte, Kshitipati Raksha Kshatamurte, Bhrugupati Ramavarenya Namo, Hari Bhaktante Paripalayamam, Hari Bhaktante Paripalayamam. This parachute that acts stands for ruthlessly annihilating whatever negative tendency, residual tendencies are left before the Rama Avatara comes. Here the seeker has reached the goal. Lord Rama is the embodiment of perfection, a perfect son, a perfect brother, a perfect friend. And Maricha says, even a perfect enemy. Rama provides that benchmark that we all look for in life, an ideal that we look for. Rama shows how to live a godly life amongst the pain and pleasures of this world. Sita Vallabha Dasharate Dasharatha Nandana Loka Guru Ravana Mardana Rama Namo Hari Bhaktante Paripalayamam Hari Bhaktante Paripalayamam. At this stage, sadhaka has realized Aham Brahmasmi, his oneness with the Lord. Having attained this perfection, the state of supreme bliss, Bhagavan Krishna, Ananda Swarupa, representing absolute bliss. Krishnananda Kripa Jaladhe, Kamsare Kamalesha Hare, Kaliyamardana Krishna Namo, Hari Bhaktante Paripalayamam, Hari Bhaktante Paripalayamam. That is the Ananda Swarupa, Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa, the absolute bliss that one has reached. Brahmanishtatva, then the perfect man, who is that Brahmanishta, comes out to teach the world as Buddha. Tripura Sati Manaviharana, Tripura Vijaya Margana Rupa, Shuddha Gnana Vibuddha Namo, Hari Bhaktante Paripalayamam. Then comes Dushta Vimardana Shishta Hare, Kalitura Gotama Vahanare, Kalkin Kara Karavala Namo, Hari Bhaktante Paripalayamam. That Kalki, the man of perfection, actively spread goodness, actively destroying evil, riding that horse in his dynamic personality, that saint becomes a force to be reckoned with, battling the cause of the righteousness. We will end this series here. Hopefully our paths cross again. Thank you for all your love and affection and continued support in making this Jnana Yajna possible. We'll do the concluding prayers. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om asatoma satgamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnaat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you, everybody. Hari Om.